I'll see the presentation, and yes, we are now recording. So yes, thank you again for joining this session. I'm going to start with a quick introduction to the HR service. I don't think you need an introduction, but we've got this beautiful slide, so we'll just do that anyway. So STVO's HR service, that's me, Lorna and Amy, and we support employers in the voluntary sector with all things HR. STVO does many other things to support employers in the sector and wider, including IT and payroll services and a recruitment platform called Good Moves. We also campaign for fair funding, and we have a monthly news publication called Third Force News. Okay, so what we're going to cover today, we're going to look at barriers to recruitment, job design and person specs and job adverts, shortlisting and interviews, onboarding, and then at the end we'll have a Q&A session, and that bit won't be recorded. Okay, so to get us started, we're going to move into breakout rooms. And we're going to ask you to have a think about what inclusive recruitment means to you. What does it look like? What does it feel like? And if you feel comfortable in your group, if you want to share any experiences that you've had of inclusive recruitment, or recruitment where you felt it really wasn't inclusive. So not necessarily times where you felt like you've been discriminated against, just times where you've been involved in a recruitment process and you've kind of thought, this really didn't need to be this difficult. It doesn't need to be this hard. So Lauren is going to move you into breakout rooms. And if you want to have a chat about what inclusive recruitment means to you, and then we'll bring you back into the room and we can have a short discussion together. Okay, so thank you everyone for that. And now we're going to move on. So the mountain metaphor, this similar to what we've just been talking about, barriers and jumping through hoops to get into a job, and what we can do to limit that in our recruitment processes. So this is a example that we've taken from a session we did with SEMVO. SEMVO are the Council for Ethnic Minority Voluntary Organisations. So they support organisations that support people from ethnic minority backgrounds. And they shared this slide with us. So this slide really is highlighting that there are many barriers to recruitment. And for some people, there are even more barriers, barriers that have been created by society that unfairly discriminate. So on the left of this picture, you can see John. So he's a white, able-bodied male, and his journey to employment is the blue line that's going up to the top. The flag represents employment. So he's had good networking opportunities. He's had access to further education and work experience at his mum's company. So you can see his recruitment journey has had a few twists and turns, because it's never easy for anyone. But he made it to the top of the mountain into employment without having to overcome any major obstacles. Compared to Jemima in the middle, a South Asian, visibly Muslim woman. Jemima went to the same university as John, but unlike John, she has caring responsibilities and a part-time job. So she missed out on the university networking opportunities. To build up her work experience in her chosen career, Jemima has volunteered and she's worked for free. She met with many biases during her job search. At the application and shortlisting stage, employers didn't value the experience she's gained through volunteering and favoured candidates with paid work experience. And at interview stage, they asked inappropriate questions about her religious beliefs and also questioned her part-time and temping jobs in her employment history. So Jemima felt that they were making assumptions about her level of commitment. So Jemima has a job now, but it's not the career she was hoping for. She got promotion in her part-time job, and she continues to volunteer in her spare time to keep her skills up to date. And then on the right, we have Jack. So Jack wasn't born in Scotland, but has followed all the complex processes and paperwork to become a UK citizen, and he has the right to work in the UK now. He didn't go to university in UK, but he is highly qualified and also has years of relevant work experience from before he emigrated to Edinburgh. He's applied for over 100 jobs and he's not received much feedback. The employers that have got back to him have said that he doesn't have enough work experience. So Jack feels that they haven't valued his work experience because it was gained in another country. Jack joined a employability programme and completed a work placement, which later became a permanent job, which he's very happy for, but he's also really well overqualified for. So similar to, well, not similar, very different to the experiences we were talking about, but yeah, different kind of barriers that people have to experience to find employment. So in the next section, we're going to continue to think about these barriers to recruitment and to start thinking about some of the things we can do at each stage of the recruitment process to limit or remove these barriers. So we're going to look at job design, job adverts, and the application stage. Okay, so at the job design stage, this is a great place to start. So this is where you can create or update a job and make it more accessible to a more diverse range of people. So think about creating fulfilling jobs that offer more than fair pay. Jobs where people feel fulfilled, valued, and respected. Design the job so it's clear how it connects to your core aims and your values, so it's more than a list of tasks and requirements. So obviously design jobs that offer fair work. And this is just a quick reminder of the fair work principles. So that's fulfillment, security, respect, effective voice, and opportunity. Okay, so we're going to continue to talk about job design and fair work. So when designing new jobs or updating a job, think about the duties. Try and make them varied and fulfilling and leave some time for learning and development and also some time to connect with colleagues and as an organisation. You can apply this approach to freelancers too. So include in your contract with freelancers some time for connecting as a team and as an organisation. Think about the job title. Create a job title that describes the job and try to avoid things like junior or temp or fixed term in the job title. Think about the working hours. Are they inclusive and accessible? So does a job have to be worked 9 to 5? Can it be done in different hours? Is there room for some flexibility with the start and finish times? And think about whether the job has to be worked from a set location all the time, or can this be flexible or a little bit flexible too? Pay, so set a salary that offers pay parity within your organisation based on the responsibilities of the job, and also consider the market rate for the type of work they're doing. If it's a freelance job, sick pay, pension and annual leave are obviously all costs to the freelancer, not to you as the employer of the freelancer. So freelance rates are obviously much higher, but still try to keep some pay parity between your employees and your freelancers. So we're going to talk about job adverts in a minute, but just to say now that advertising the salary on your adverts is an inclusive step and something we think you should definitely do. So it's one of the things you can do to reduce the gender pay gap. And it also shows that you really value the time of your candidates and recognise that no one really wants to apply for a job, go to interview before even knowing if they can afford to do the job. So we have resources covering job design and job descriptions that you can access. We've also got flexible working policies and pay structures. So please get in touch with us if you'd like us to share any of those. Some of those are also available on the resources area that we've shared with you all. And the resource area also includes all the basics, so things like employment and freelance contracts and your kind of basic policies and procedures that we've developed for HR for Creatives organisations. And that's all through working with you and learning more about your organisations. Okay, so once you've thought about the job design and you've got a good idea of what you want the job to be like, the next step is to think about the skills, experience, knowledge and values needed to do the job well, and importantly, avoid creating barriers as much as possible. So one way to do this is to focus on values as well as skills and experience, and remove or reduce non-inclusive requirements. So remove things if you can. If it is absolutely necessary, you can ask for a degree, but try to avoid asking just for a general must be educated to degree level. Try to avoid asking for an unreasonable amount of experience. So over 5 years experience, that's starting to become a little bit unreasonable. And also try to limit the number of requirements. So on this slide, I've got an example which shows two different approaches to job specifications. And I have exaggerated this a wee bit just to highlight the differences. So on the left, there's the traditional person spec. So it focuses very much on very specific work experience and quite a lot of it. So 5 to 7 years, educated to degree level, but doesn't mention what kind of degree, from what kind of discipline. A very long list, it's all essential. So it's obviously they're looking for a very specific person. And this is probably based on the person that's been doing the job for years and they've maybe recently left. So this isn't very inclusive. So on the right, we've got a shorter list of key skills, experience, knowledge and values, but still asks for experience and ability to do the job, but is more inclusive and open, and also gives the person reading it a bit more of an idea about the organisation and what's important to the organisation. So the main change is the language used. The job hasn't changed, but the language is different. The more inclusive version still describes what's needed for the job, but it also says a lot more about the values of the organisation and what they might be like to work for. Okay, so moving on to advertising the job. So this is your chance to share information about the job using the same approach of focusing on values as well as key skills and experience. So this gives potential candidates some idea of what you might be like to work for, and it lets everyone know that you are an inclusive employer. So yeah, use the advert to tell people about you as an organisation as well as about the job. So one of the barriers that people experience in recruitment is, if they have been discriminated against, that might put them off applying for another job, either in a sector or any job. So the idea here is that you're letting them know that you're an inclusive employer. So you're making efforts to remove those barriers and that you welcome their application. So that's just helping people to see, when they see your job advert, it's helping them to actually want to apply for your job. So if your organisation has identified that a specific group of people are underrepresented in your organisation and you want to address this, You can say this in your advert. So you can encourage people with specific protected characteristics to apply for your jobs. You just need to explain that you feel that this group of people are underrepresented and you want to welcome them into your organisation. Obviously, using gender or age-coded words, you want to avoid that. So I can't think of anyone using these words really in job adverts now, but it certainly has happened in the past. So yeah, words like dominant or competitive or energetic, don't use those words. Use more neutral and positive terms like collaborative and motivated. And if you're not sure, you can ask 1 or 2 people to read through the advert, see what they think, to check it for accuracy, as well as checking the language. And we're always happy to look over adverts and to give you any tips. So if you want to share any adverts that you have with us, that's something we can do as well. Okay, so this is the accessible recruitment process that we use within SCVO and that we recommend to other organisations. So we recommend using application forms rather than asking for CVs, and having a different process for freelancers, so a different application process for freelancers. Think about what you ask for in your application form and think about the potential barriers that this could create. So make sure that your application form is accessible and not 20 pages. So short, concise, make it clear that you can provide alternative formats if needed. I think the applying by video is an excellent idea. We've tried that out for, not for our jobs, but for other opportunities at SCVO. We've tried out video recruitment and it worked really well. In your application form, ask about volunteering and other experience. That shows that you really value that type of experience. So if you ask specifically about that, and think about removing dates of employment or volunteering from your application forms. This can create barriers for people that have had gaps in their employment between jobs, or they might have had time off for caring responsibilities or to have a baby. So yeah, think about removing those gaps. People with barriers to employment often have more short-term or temporary jobs. So removing the requirement to provide dates reduces that barrier. I know that can seem like quite a big step. We've gone ahead and done that at SCVO, and we have had a little bit of feedback from managers that they prefer to know a person's length of experience to help them shortlist. But we're trying it out and we've stuck to it, so we have removed dates of employment from our applications. BD, I think you mentioned this, giving people enough time to actually apply for the job, to see the advert, to think about their application and to apply for the job. That's really important. And also when it comes to the next stage in recruitment, give yourself enough time to shortlist and to get back to the candidates, to invite them to interview. And when you invite them to interview, try and leave a week or more, give them at least a week's notice of the interview so they have time to arrange time off from their current employment or to arrange for cover for their caring responsibilities. Okay, so some tips on inclusive shortlisting. So think about offering guaranteed interviews to people with a disability or long-term health condition that meet your person specification. Value all types of experience, as well as work experience, life experience, volunteering, work in other countries and in other sectors. And try not to place too much importance on gaps in employment, on the number of jobs somebody's had and the length of time they've worked in them. Try to focus on the skills that they've used and developed. Keep an open mind when you're shortlisting. You might not find a perfect match. A perfect person might not be out there, but somebody with real potential to develop into that perfect person might be out there. So yeah, keep an open mind. And all these things apply at the interview stage too. So keep an open mind at the interview stage. Share the interview questions in advance, a few days in advance if possible, and share any other information too. So let your candidates know when they're coming into interview how many people are going to be on the panel, who they are, what their jobs are, even down to providing directions to your location and offering pay for any travel if you're recruiting in person, if you're interviewing in person. Okay. So why are scene interview questions so important? So it took us a little bit of convincing when we were introducing scene interview questions to SCVO. So if you are trying scene interview questions out already, that's really good. But if you do need any kind of if you're having to like argue your case with your board for scene interview questions, these are some of the reasons why they are a good idea. So it is a very inclusive step. It builds trust from the start between you and your potential employee. It levels the power dynamics. It signals respect for the candidate. If you let people know in your job adverts that there will be scene interview questions, you'll encourage a wider range of people to actually apply for the job. Research shows that surprise interview questions aren't actually the best indicator of a candidate's skill, and that scene interview questions give you a higher quality signal of candidates' actual capabilities. And finally, because we can share the interview questions. We don't have to keep working in the same ways that we've always worked in. We can change things. Sharing interview questions in advance is a small step. It's relatively easy for us to do, but it does make a big difference to job candidates. Okay, so somebody did mention thinking about onboarding. So onboarding is part of the recruitment process, a very important part. So once you've made the job offer, the next step is to plan an inclusive onboarding experience for your new colleague. So think about how you can make them feel welcome and feel part of your organisation. Introduce them to the key people that they're going to be working with. Maybe introduce them to a work buddy, somebody that they can just talk to about general things at work, not necessarily things that you'd ask your line manager, but something you might just ask a colleague. Reinforce your values and behaviours. And you can do that through introducing key policies that that are inclusive. So things like flexible working. So making sure that your new recruit knows right from the start, or possibly even before they start working for you, that they can request to work flexibly. And that's something that you will fully consider. Okay, so we're almost at the end. I've got some resources here that I found useful. So the first one is it's a YouTube video. It is by Google, but I have watched it a few times, and I think it's okay. It describes unconscious bias really well, and provides good examples of how working on your unconscious bias can really benefit you, benefit your job candidates, and benefit your organisation as a whole. The second resource is inclusive employers. So inclusive employers, they are the organisation that run National Inclusion Week, which runs every September. So they do have quite a lot of free resources for employers on all sorts of things. So it's worth having a look at that. Third resource is from Media Co-op, who are also a HR for Creative organisation. So this is a really great resource. We haven't spoken about equality impact assessments in this session because it's not something that we're really experts in. But this e-learning module from Media Co-op is a really good introduction to equality impact assessments. It's something that they produced for the Scottish Government. It's really, really good animation. And the fourth resource here is from Semvo. So Semvo have got a jobs board. So it's for advertising jobs and they share it with all the organisations and people that they support. So it really introduces your jobs to a much more diverse range of people.